Okay, good morning. Here we are. Okay, that's it. After Pesach, we're in the Yoms now. Yom HaShoah. We have Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaTzmaut, which when we have our next class will be on Yom HaTzmaut observed, not actually Yom HaTzmaut, Yom HaTzmaut observed. Slightly different, how should we say, feeling this year, just to say the least. And but this, more importantly for us, is the beginning of our new limud. So we concluded Sefer Yehoshua. When I was thinking about what to do next, and then I took everybody's suggestions and completely ignored them because I guess it's like the only thing I have. But so when I was in Israel with my daughter, I went to one of her shiurim, and one of the courses that she takes is the thought of Rabbi Sachs, and it was taught by Rabbi Eyes, a wonderful, wonderful teacher, and I enjoyed the lecture very much. And it was one of the earlier works of Rabbi Sachs, which was very, very complicated. It's not like an easy read. And what Rabbi Eyes pointed out is that in his early days, he's an academic and intellectual, and when he wrote, he was writing the way he understood. But then when people realized he has such an appeal to the masses, then they said, I don't know if they said, or he realized, I don't know, wasn't part of the process, and he kind of made his volumes much more accessible to the masses. So it started with something called Covenant Conversation, which I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. I used to get these emails of Covenant Conversation, and I was like, this is pure gold. A 3-page Dvar Torah, including sources. It's like he did all the work for you. You just had to like give it over. So I said there must be, when he went to Shemayim, it was Parshas Lech Lecha. No, it was Vayera. Parshas Vayera a few years ago. There's a weird reason why I remember that. It was he died on Shabbos, is because that Shabbos was Henry Sachs's bar mitzvah. And I said went from like one Sachs to another that Shabbos. It was very yeah, it's kind of a weird coincidence. But when he went to Shemaim, he probably got so much credit. Like, you know how many people shared your Torah? I mean, you got 0 credit for it. I'm telling that people, because then you're talking about in 2005, 2006, 2007. People didn't know who Rabbi Sachs was. Certainly not here. And then they started publishing the Covenant and Conversation. And I don't know how many books I have a lot of his books. I did a count, and I maybe 20 of his books that I have. And so, for instance, he has one book that he actually wrote to his children as a wedding gift. Oh. Like, I understand giving your kids a nice wedding gift, but like, oh, hey, let me write you a book and dedicate to you. Will we have Jewish grandchildren as a book? He deals with politics. He deals with, of course, a tremendous amount of Torah, but his ability to weave things together. So what I wanted to just begin with before we get to the actual text. So after he died, this came out of the UK, actually. So it's very confusing because in the UK, the synagogue system is called the US. Okay, United Synagogue. So, and United Synagogue is the dominant, I mean, aside from the Haredi portions of the community in London, and I don't know, whatever's being left in London these days, it's dwindling, unfortunately. But it's probably now, I think the estimate was at 300, now it's maybe 250,000 Jews in England, or something like that, and it's not the easiest go of things. But in the United Synagogue, they are the governing body of most of the synagogues. So the Masorti movement or the Reform movement is not as strong there as it is here. And so even people who are, let's say, not observant or not religious, whatever term you want to use, they'll go to a United Synagogue, a lot of people. I mean, that's just from what I know. And an interesting thing you should know also is that I just know this because I was recruited for a job there once a number of years ago at one of the big synagogues, which thank God I didn't get because, I don't speak like them. But when they hire a rabbi, they actually officially hire the rabbi's wife too. Mm-hmm. She's employed by the synagogue. It's a really interesting, but they have their also kind of unionized in that they can protect the rabbis and things like that, whatever. But so that's United Synagogues. When you're the chief rabbi, one of your responsibilities is the head of the United Synagogue, sort of. And so the United Synagogue, celebrating 150 years, they published this volume, Rabbi Sachs and the Community We Built Together. Not readily available here, as far as I know, but you can get your hands on it. So it was a tribute book And in it, they have many chapters. Here, chapter Rabbi Sachs and Torah teaching, Rabbi Sachs as chief rabbi, Rabbi Sachs as author, learning from Rabbi Sachs' stories, responses for the next generation, working with Rabbi Sachs in Rabbi Sachs' own words. So I figured over time, we'll just pick out different tidbits. And I wanted to just pick this one because this was an inspiration for me. And it's called Celebrating Life. And this is Rabbi Sachs, the author. Oh, I'm coming. I'll open the door. I know a guy. It's the birthday girl came late. It was yesterday. Yesterday. Yes. She came in late so she get the attention. I know that's how.
So like me.
Right? Happy birthday. She finally turned 29 and Baruch Hashem. So Rabbi Yitzchak Safran, he writes in this volume, Celebrating Life. So if you have to also ask yourself, and you have to spend time reading Rabbi Sachs's books. And that's what we're going to do, by the way. And it's so you could obviously look ahead of time each week. It's like, oh, I know we're going to do this week. Like I know you do the magic trick. But if you ask yourself, which is your favorite book? And because of this article and other things, this is my favorite book of Rabbi Sachs's. It's called Celebrating Life, Finding Happiness in Unexpected Places. The reason why people go to shul. No. And it's a small book, but it's a goodie. I marked up a couple of pages. So this book in part is taken from columns written by Rabbi Sachs for the Times, in italics called the Times, I don't know, whatever the paper is there, so that it brings Jewish teachings and Rabbi Sachs' skills as a master storyteller to a broad audience. In the beginning, he says one of the things that inspired him is that because he went through a life-harrowing experience when he was young, he almost drowned, and his father saved him or something like that. So and he says it was written after his father died. He explains how he nonetheless found happiness in unexpected places and hopes this will help Jews and non-Jews alike to do so as well. Important point is having non-Jews alike. So going back to the class that I was in Israel with Rabbi I, so when I was thinking about what to teach, and I came out, I think, Rabbi Sachs' Torah, we should spread it. There's so many different things, and Erica's involved in it, and all these, they have an institute in Israel and London. You can actually, the London LSSJ, it's called, or London School of, I don't know, but you look it up, and you can actually go to online Shiur May where they teach Rabbi Sachs' Torah, and they could be like on an email list, and they'll send it to you. If anybody wants, I could send it to you, that information. But I called Rabbi Eyes and I said, like, what do you recommend we should learn? I think the volume he was teaching might be a little bit not fit for our group. So he recommended this volume, which I had my eye on, Judaism's Life-Changing Ideas, which we'll get to. And so I said, oh, great minds think alike. Beautiful. So in particular, Rabbi Sachs uses the theme of faith in God as a parallel to happiness. In a labyrinth of wisdom, direction, hope, and encouragement, faith is interwoven from every conceivable angle. The beauty of this work, however, is found in the way in which he illustrates how faith is both the nub and the key to happiness itself. In the essay, Staying Sane in Troubled Times, Rabbi Sachs puts it this way: happiness isn't somewhere else, it's where we are. There's a lot of times people are like always looking for something, looking, right? We have something called, people have it, different words for it. We call it, say, retail therapy. Works for some people, I don't know. It isn't something we don't yet have, we do. It isn't fantasy, it's reality experienced in a certain way. Happiness is a close relative of faith. So his ability to take simple words and string them in a sentence and be like, wow, that's something that you, me, or anybody could have said, but he did it. He took the words. So if you're appreciative of the ability to take words and put them together in a sentence, which is why I don't know if it's, I guess it maybe at a certain point in life, I don't know when, even if you're not a reader, if you're a reader, it's good, but if you're not a reader, even so, but the ability to appreciate well-written sentences, or when you take words together and it's just kind of like, wow, that's amazing. I'll give you an example, and again, it has nothing to do with politics or anything, but one of my favorite writers is someone who I think puts words together beautifully, more so in her books than in her columns, Peggy Noonan. So if you ever read Peggy Noonan's biography of Ronald Reagan, phenomenal, just absolutely phenomenal. And the way she's the one that, remember when the space shuttle exploded and he had that great speech, like she's the one that composed those words, those famous words that he said. I don't know them by heart, but about them going up and, which was an important time in our lives, back when tragedy was simple. To sound right. So he has like happiness is a close relative of faith. There's not a single difficult word or sophisticated word in that sentence. But when you put them all together and you're like, wow, what I spoke about on Yontif, the difference between optimism and hope. If you weren't here, it's too bad. In a similar vein, I recall Rabbi Sachs remarking that faith is about how we live, not how long. It's about how we live, not how long we live. So his approach is rooted in the text of Pirkei Avos, which we're learning now, of course, teaching Rabbi Yeshua that the evil eye or envy, the evil impulse, and the hatred of humankind drive a person out of the world. The statement contains both a positive and negative. As one who likes to play with words, inspired Rabbi Sachs, upon reflection, I came up with a supplementary phrase. This Rabbi Sufferin says this. Faith is about how we live and how we long. We are directed by the Torah and divine command to act and perform as instructed by God. Our faith should direct how we live and act, both because of our belief and yes, because of reward, which we believe will come with the complete redemption and coming of Mashiach. And we pray for this daily. So he goes on and he talks more about the his experience with the Rabbi Sachs. So in each one of these little chapters, different people who had different relationships with Rabbi Sachs talked about. So it's important to understand the person that he was and to read the kind of not only scholar but human being and father and teacher and mentor to many. So this is the book. So this, and they just when he first died, it was like virtually impossible to find. They got smart and they're reprinting a lot of his volumes. Some of them actually have different covers. They look different than they used to because Ayed Machaleben. Okay, but this one, in my opinion, celebrating life. It's little short essays of just awesomeness, and I'll tell you how I know it's good, because I couldn't find it in my office or in my house. Where was it? One of my kids' rooms, like on the bedside table. Right? And I'm like, what? Right? So listen to this line. Hold that thought. Ian, take over.
Getting dressed is it's a good practice of OT.
Yeah,
Amazon with the same color.
You what?
It's on Amazon with the same
Oh.
color. It's actually on sale.
How much? Something that
$16.99.
16. Let's go. Let's make a rush. Let's run on Amazon.
I just ordered.
There you go. You see? And if you order now, you get a free kafir or something. I don't know. Like, I bet you that there's like some Jewish guy who's like selling all these kafirs to these college students. Like, again, listen to this, right? So my what? I wouldn't be surprised. Let's put it that way. I know somebody who works on Isha Torah, and they always say like, how when they nab guys at the wall, they say, how do you know like which guy is like really? He's like, usually they're wearing kafiyas because Jewish guys like travel and they wear a kafiyah and they come to the hotel on Friday night. They're like, oh yeah, they're for sure. That's Ish material right there. I don't think anybody would do that today, but okay, listen to this line. I have it marked off. This is called Where We Let Him In. It's based on the Kutzker's line of somebody said, where is God? And God, where does God live? Where does he not live? So he says, no, God lives where we let him in. But listen to what he says. Faith is not certainty. This is a common theme. And by the way, if you look on rabbisachs.org, the website is a treasure trove of all of this material. You can see all of his books that he wrote and all of his articles. And if you just do a word search, let's say if you would do the word search faith, you would have a lot of entries that come up. And it's something that we all struggle with and something that we think about a lot. So faith is not certainty. It's the courage to live with uncertainty. Again, there wasn't a single fancy word in that sentence. You don't need to be fancy to be impactful, to be meaningful. You tell the people who speak all the time, like, you don't need to use like big words or, whatever. It's not knowing all the answers. It's often the strength to live with the questions. It's not a sense of invulnerability. It's the knowledge that we are utterly vulnerable, but that it is precisely in our vulnerability that we reach out to God, and through this learn to reach out to others, able to understand their fears and doubts. We learn to share and in sharing discover the road to freedom. It is only because we are not gods that we are able to discover God. The only fancy word is that invulnerability. Again, I'm making a point, but that's, and sometimes in a little book, I love that, in a Talis bag, you get like, and sometimes that's all we need. Because we're going through tough times. We're going to oh, yeah. Okay, so here we go. So this book, this volume, is, they quote a line here, but this is called Judaism's Life-Changing Ideas, okay? And the Phillips family are delighted to support the work of Rabbi Sachs. So just, we have to give credit to the Phillips family in September 2020, who did this. I don't want to go through so much of his introduction, but Barry Weiss did the forward in it, which is really, really interesting. And he talks a lot about Jewish ideas. So he does it by parsha, which just helps us just in terms of knowing what to do each week. It may or may not be related to the parsha. Some are a little bit more parsha oriented, but each one has a great idea. And then what he does is he summarizes at the end of each chapter, what is the life-changing idea? So if you want to know what last week's life-changing idea was, I got so excited about last week's, and then I realized, oh, I forgot the last day of Pesach is on Tuesday. So we're not going to do Acharei Mos, rather we're going to do Kedoshim. But last week, I'm just going to, because we're not going to get to it till next year. Sometimes we find our life is on the wrong track, not because of a specific sin, but because we have an overall sense of being lost. Teshuvah means coming home to God. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel lost. Last few months, I feel pretty lost. I know it doesn't look like it, but this is like my therapy. It's really hard, really hard, especially what's going on now. I got a right now as we speak. Like, I guess no, he had already. My nephew, who's in a tank unit in Gaza, and it's a weird feeling that we have because he got injured in training. I don't know, they were changing the tracks, whatever it is they were doing, but his hand got smashed by a very heavy hammer, which they use on tanks, which is meant to hit part of the tank and not somebody's hand. Shattered his whole situation. They may not have use of his thumb again, whatever. So he's out for surgery, and I don't know, we'll see what happens. He's going to be out for like a month at least. And so my sister, and just to put it into context, so my sister, who is the only one in her entire neighborhood with a child in the army. Okay, so I'll let you figure out what that means. Yeah, right. You live in Sanhedrin Merchevet, and not 10 people, the kids in the army. And she's like, when they go to the doctor, everybody's like, oh, this is the Chayal. The Chayal, everybody refers to it as the Chayal because they hardly ever say it. Okay. So then she's like, oh my God, daddy's watching over him. And because the unit's just about, if not already, went into Rafiach. So on one hand, it's like, and the kid is like so depressed because he wants to be with his unit. He wants to be with his, he doesn't want to miss out on it. Right. So I feel kind of weird saying like, oh, thank God, like he's sparing him. But if something horrible happens, that's not good. So I wrestle with that. So that's what's going on. So I feel lost sometimes. It's hard in the news and this, that, up and down, hostage, no hostage, right? And then you see what's going on in the last 2 weeks. Oh my God. Right. You can add to your list of the, thank God I didn't go to Harvard. Thank God I didn't go to MIT. Thank God I didn't go to Columbia. Thank God, on and on and on and on. And what's going on? It's very, very scary. And if you have kids who, I said this on Shabbos, is if you have kids, let's say, who are in Rutgers or went to Rutgers or are thinking of Rutgers, you got to be up in arms. If you have kids that are thinking about colleges now or in colleges now, you're thinking twice about whether they should go back or where they should go going forward. For better, for worse, while you was busting at the seams. That's just, God has his funny ways, but it's very, very scary. It's very scary, and not scary so much as what's happening, but scary the way it's being dealt with. That's the scary part. Both by administration, media, and people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kedoshim called "Love Is Not Enough." This is something we used to sing on the Love Boat. No, sorry. Saturday nights, Channel 7. Love Boat, followed by, what was the show that came out? See, you're my people. I get Fantasy Island. Oh, there we go. That's right. And then we used to have to struggle to stay up for the news till 11:35 because then we could watch Saturday Night Live. If we were able to stay up, like if we could fight the It's good to be. Nowadays, like kids don't understand what it means to stay up for something. They're like, I'll just watch it on demand. Oh, I'll just get it on my phone. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, can you subscribe to another service so we can like pay more money for me to watch something I don't have to wait for? Okay. The opening chapter of Kedoshim contains two of the most powerful of all commands. Love your neighbor and love the stranger. Here, by the way, we get a very fancy word that you're not going to know. And he says it, you're not going to know. Love your neighbor as yourself. I'm the Lord goes first. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha ani Hashem. When a stranger comes to live in your land, don't mistreat him, goes the second. And it says, treat the stranger the way you treat your native born. Love him as yourself, for you were strangers in Egypt. I'm the Lord your God. You have to take care of those who are not part of your clan, so to speak. The first is often called the golden rule and held to be universal to all cultures. It's a mistake. The golden rule is different. In its positive formulation, it states, act towards others as you would wish them to act towards you. Or in the negative formulation, which is brought famous by Hillel, what is hateful to you, and he said it in Aramaic, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. These rules are not about love, they're about justice, and more precisely about what evolutionary psychologists call reciprocal altruism. Now, again, this is typical Rabbi Sachs. He's going to quote a psychologist, a sociologist, and this and that. I have never once in my life used the phrase reciprocal altruism. I don't know, but reciprocal altruism, it says like, okay, somebody does good for you, you do good back, fine. The Torah does not say, be nice or kind to your neighbor because you would wish him to be nice or kind to you. It says, love your neighbor. That is something different and far stronger. So before we go any further, we throw it around like V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. That is one of the hardest mitzvahs in the Torah to fulfill. Really, really hard. As my Rabbi always told us, he says, it's very easy to love Judaism, very hard to love Jews. Anyone who's ever been involved in, I don't know, anything Jewish, you know, and everybody's trying to do good. Everybody wants like, come on, really? Really? God, that's what you want from me? So, no, love your neighbor. Why can't I just like ignore my neighbor? Can I just like not talk about him badly? Can I just be passive? What do you mean love? What does that mean? The second command is more radical still. Here it is. I love this. This is great. Most people in most societies in most ages have feared, hated, and often harmed the stranger. There's a word for this called xenophobia, something we hear a lot about lately, right? Xenophobia. How often have you heard the opposite word? Xenophilia. Has anyone ever heard the word xenophilia? No. You, if anyone, it would be you. No, really? You think you can work that into a column or something like let's all embrace xenophilia. Bill, is that the one where you like bleed and you can't stop bleeding? Like, no, that's okay. My guess is never. How many have heard the word? Never. People don't usually love strangers. That is why almost always when the Torah states the command, which it does according to the Gemara, it says 36 times, how we treat the convert, the stranger, etc. It adds an explanation, because you were strangers in Egypt. I know of no other nation that was born as a nation in slavery and exile. We know what it feels like to be a vulnerable minority. That's why the love of the stranger is so central to Judaism and so marginal to other systems of ethics. But here too, look at the note, he says, had it existed in Europe, there would not have been 1,000 years of persecution of the Jews, followed by the birth of racial anti-Semitism, followed by the Holocaust. Why do people hate us? Because we're not them. Pretty simple, right? Ad hayom hazeh. Okay? If you remember the gazillions of people who canceled graduations and classes and blocked the quads because of the Uyghurs that were being murdered in China and the people were being murdered in Syria. And you remember those? Don't you remember how we couldn't get to class those days? And right. Okay. We're not them. And there's a few other layers to that. But here too, the Torah doesn't use the word justice. There is a command of justice towards strangers, but that's a different law. It says you cannot wrong a stranger or oppress him. Here the Torah speaks about not justice, but love. Love the stranger. Our whole lives were raised, don't talk to strangers. Don't open the door for a stranger. Don't make eye contact on the subway. Even today, like, first of all, did anybody here go on the subway?
Yes.
Yeah?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, that's
I'm such a suburban kid that I can't do. My wife's on the subway every day, and she makes fun of me that when we have I'm a MetroCard spaz. So like when I swipe it and it doesn't go, but I think it goes, and I'm like, oh, like this, right?
It's half.
And see, and this shows you how long it's been. So, and I love, I mean, the atmosphere, the aromas, it's beautiful. Right. In Israel, I only use public transportation. Here, I don't know, but it stems from like a suburban kid being raised of like, be careful. And it's not like my parents were not helicopter parents by any means. It was just like, you read about the scary stuff that happened. We saw Fort Apache, the Bronx. I mean, like, come on. Okay. Paul Newman.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good one.
a good one.
See, I'm giving you all the classics here, Claire. See that? You get all, you're going to go home and you're going to rent it tonight. You're going to be like, Morris, this is what we're watching. Take those headphones off. We're watching this. Lee, what are you doing? I'm watching CNN. Trust me, it's almost as horrible. It's almost as horrifying as CNN.
Watches it
All day long. Baruch Hashem. Okay. The two commandments define Judaism as a religion of love, not just of God, like with love with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, but of humanity also. That was, and is a world-changing idea. But what calls for deep reflection is where these commands appear. They do appear in Parshas Kedoshim, what to contemporary eyes must seem like the strangest passages in the Torah. So chapter 19 in Leviticus, which has all these very hodgepodge of mitzvahs, we'll see, it brings side-by-side laws of seemingly quite different kinds. Some belong to the moral life. Don't gossip, don't hate, don't take revenge, don't bear a grudge. Some are about social. By the way, that's a lot of people like to skip shul this week because they don't want to hear it. Some are about social justice. So anybody who's not in shul this week, I'm going to assume that's why. Because you can't bear the truth of these things, these mitzvahs. Okay. Some are about social justice, leave parts of the harvest for the poor, don't pervert justice, don't withhold wages, false weights and measures, etc. Others have a different feel altogether. Don't crossbreed livestock. Don't plant a field mixed with seeds. Shatnez, you can't have wool and linen together. Don't eat fruit of the first 3 years. Don't eat blood. Don't practice divination. Practice with an S. I love that. Don't lacerate yourself. So if anyone was thinking of lacerating yourself, please don't. This week's parsha says don't do that. At first glance, these laws have nothing to do with one another. Some are about conscience, some about politics and economics, and others about purity and taboo. Clearly, though, the Torah is telling us otherwise. They do have something in common. They're about order, limits, and boundaries. They're telling us that in reality, reality has a certain underlying structure whose integrity must be honored, O-U-R-E-D. If you hate or take revenge, you destroy relationships. If you commit injustice, you undermine the trust on which society depends. If you fail to respect the integrity of nature, seeds, species, and so on, you take the first step down a path that ends in environmental disaster. Boundaries. I'll add to this that we just started this past Shabbos. Many have the custom of studying Pirkei Avos, ethics of the fathers, which not everybody loves that definition. Pirkei literally means chapter, Avos means fathers, but some have different ways of, more sort of modern ways of like lessons from our parents, something like that. But Pirkei Avos, because there's 6 chapters, so we read one chapter, we study a chapter each Shabbos between Pesach and Sukkot. There are exactly 6 Shabboses. Okay, right? Did I say Sukkot?
Yeah.
All right, because some people do it all summer and they stop at Rosh Hashanah, but I meant Shavuos, you're right. Because I'm thinking that, already it's tonight is Rosh Chodesh, which means it's 5 months till Rosh Hashanah. So we better start. You got to start. You were. I appreciate that. Thank you. We got to start. We got to start preparing. That's for sure. That's for sure. Although my son, after it was 2 days after Pesach, and he's like, "Don't eat on the couch. It's almost Pesach again." I'm like, "Oh, such nachas." Okay. Yeah, you can have the reason why we do Avos is because Avos is about morality, good behavior, how to deal with one another. And we want to better ourselves to prepare for the giving of the Torah or receiving of the Torah. So therefore, we study it in this time. And some people study it through the whole summer because in the summer, maybe we're relaxed with our observance. We want to make sure that that's bolstered. Pirkei Avos is found where? In Mishnah. So if I were to ask, and when I start to ask people, what part of Mishnah is it found in? Now, as you know, there are 6 orders of Mishnah. The way you remember it is Zman Nakat, Zmanim Nakat, that's it. Zeraim, Moed Nashim. Zeraim, which deals with agricultural laws. So it starts with brachos, and then you have about all the tithes and the demai, all those types of things. Moed, all the holidays. Shabbos, Pesach, Sukkot, Megillah, all that. Nun is Nashim. all laws dealing with women and laws, so marriage, divorce, yavamas, things like that. Sota. Nezikin, where we are right now in the Daf Yomi, Nezikin is damages. All the Babas, not your grandmother, but the Babas, Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, Bava Basra, Sanhedrin. And then we have Kuf Tes is Kedoshim, all the laws of the Karbanos, and Taharos, laws of ritual impurity and purity. The last two, it's like, certainly in Mishnah, we don't get into it too much, but okay. So if I would ask you, where is an Avos is part of the corpus of Mishnah? In what of those 6 categories does Avos fall? Or where would you put it? It's a good thing to think about because we don't think about it. In other words, let's say you have a Shas of Mishnayos and you want to find Avos and you can't find it. Like, wait a minute, but it's only divided by the 6. Where would I find it? Well, just look for Avos. But let's say you don't have a standalone volume, which is, by the way, that's why in every siddur, Avos is found after Shabbos Mincha. First, they have Baruch Nafshi and all the Shir Hamalos. People from Bereshis until Shabbos Hagadol will say that every Shabbos, and then from after Pesach until Rosh Hashanah, they do Perkei Avos. That's why they're always found in a siddur after Shabbos Mincha, right? So, but ask yourself, going back to the question of which order, it's all called an order, a seder, which order of the Mishnah, which pillar of the Mishnah you think it would go in, which one of those categories would you put it in? Because if nobody answers, I'm going to call on Vivian.
One more time. Can you repeat the question?
Zraim, agriculture. Moed, laws of daily life and holidays, things you do have to do every day. Nashim, women. Nezikin, damages, property laws, things like that. Sanctity, karbonos, offerings, or ritual and impurity and impurity. Wow, nobody wanted to answer, and everybody wanted to answer. Okay, I love that. They saved you.
I don't even know
Saved
what
you. I know.
What was the original question?
Where do you think Tractate Avos, Pirkei Avos is found? And it's a Mishnah. It's a tractate of Mishnah. In which seder is it found?
Is it right?
You say Nezikin?
Something to do with people.
That's what I
Opposed
was
to just
also.
agriculture.
It's a
Nezikin or
relation.
Nashim, something with people.
Okay, okay. You said Moed.
Right, you changed it from holidays to everyday living, so that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Zeroed in on it.
By the way,
How's your hint?
Yeah.
yes, and you totally went for it. I baited you totally. Oh, yeah, that's good. I would guess it was totally a trap. I fully, I would,
That's what I'm saying, it's totally.
Yeah.
You're that teacher.
I am. I would, if, I am, I encourage you to think.
No one's ever going to participate again.
We have to, I would think that it would go in Moed. Because Moed, but it's not, it's in Nezikin. Right?
Which is the agriculture.
No, damages, but based on this.
So why did you think that?
Because it has to do with people feeling each other. Personal property.
Oh, for how you treat each other.
What's the word he used here? Boundaries. Boundaries. My property begins here, yours begins there. This is my thing, that's your thing. I lost the item, you have to give it back. On and on. My car hits your car, we have to pay damages. Who's responsible to whom? You borrowed money, didn't pay back, we have to go to court. But the same thing with behavior. My personal space, manners, how do I look when you see me in the morning? It says that the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says you have to greet everybody with what? Sever panim yafos.
Not like that.
My family cannot stand that I am a morning and a night person. They can't stand it that I'm like way too awake in the morning, and they just don't like that. Like just get away from me, okay?
At least no talk.
But it's important. Like, someone's countenance says a lot. So it's about boundaries. So here it's the same thing. It's like these laws in Kedoshim, which might be a microcosm, perhaps, of a lot of Shas, and also maybe you could throw in Pirkei Avos as well, are about boundaries. There is an order to the universe, part moral, part political, part ecological. When the order is violated, eventually there is chaos. When the order is observed and preserved, we become co-creators of the sacred harmony and an integrated diversity that the Torah calls holy. So why then is it, specifically in this chapter, that the two commands, love your neighbor and the stranger, why are they there? The answer is profound and very far from obvious, because this is where love belongs in an ordered universe. And this is usually when Rabbi Sachs would bring in a psychologist, a sociologist, a historian, or someone that you and I never heard of. And if we looked for it, we probably would never find it. But he read voraciously, whatever the word is, voraciously. Something with a V. He read a lot. Jordan Peterson, Canadian psychologists. I don't even know American psychologists, let alone Canadian psychologists. He just ended every sentence with a. Your attitude is good, eh? Right? You know how Canada got its name? Somebody said, "Give me a C, eh? N, eh? D, eh?" Yeah. It's the hockey playoffs. What can I do? Tell your sons I am not sorry.
Ari is lamenting not being a New York's fan now because of the Rangers
And the Knicks.
The
You
Garden has
imagine
a game
every
this
night.
week.
Oh my God, there's Myriv every night in the Garden. Jordan Peterson, the Canadian psychologist, has recently become one of the most prominent public intellectuals of our time. His book, 12 Rules for Life, has been a massive bestseller in Britain and America. And look, he tells you where to get it. How much is that on Amazon? Quick, tell me. Tell me if that's worth getting. Tell me, how many reviews, how many stars? That'd be great that we should have a list of how many books have been purchased as a result of reading through this. We're at 1 so far. Okay, we're at 1. Maybe we can make it 2. He has had the courage to be a contrarian, challenging the fashionable fallacies of the contemporary West. Particularly striking in the book is rule number 5. Don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
Wow.
That bolded and underlined?
Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
Oh, boy. That should be a place.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
How does one accomplish that?
Right? There's going to be more. Okay. Thank God he didn't leave it there because that would be, we have to get this book. Now maybe that's the next year. His point is more subtle than it sounds. A significant number of parents today, he says, fail to socialize their children. They indulge them.
Mhm.
They don't teach them rules. There are, he argues, complex reasons for this. Some of it has to do with the lack of attention. Parents are busy, don't have time for the demanding task of teaching discipline. Some of it has to do with Jean-Jacques Rousseau's influential but misleading idea that children are naturally good. I promise you that's not the case, and are made bad by society and its rules. So the best way to raise happy, creative children is to let them choose for themselves. La-di-da. You pay my tuition and I'm going to go parade around campus with my Amazon kefir and my Pret-a-Manger sandwiches. And please bring me gluten-free pizza so that I could protest something I don't even know what it is. And I could say from the river to sea. I don't even know what river, what sea. Okay. Yeah, now you know how I feel about this, right? Do these kids have parents?
Mhm.
If you can't even get by Saturday Night Live, Saturday Night Live made fun of them. Oh my God, that's bad. If Saturday Night Live's making fun of them, did you see the skit?
No.
No.
An African-American father, and he's saying, Keenan Thompson's like, there's no way my kid, you kidding me? Free, ain't no free, not $86,000 in Columbia. You better be in class. Yeah.
There was a video of her calling her kid out. She saw him in the mask and recognized him, and she went and she.
Was it recent? Because there was one from the BLM
Last
ones.
week.
Good, because that's what kid needs it. And I'm sorry, if this is, I know this is being recorded. This is being recorded, so I have to choose my words carefully. But sometimes a kid needs a good smack. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
You know what? Our parents had it right. Not that they don't beat your kids or hurt your kids, but sometimes a kid needs like a jolt or something, right? And that's the problem. Oh, we coddle them too much. Oh, you're the best thing in the world. Oh, you showed up. Let's give you an award. And I created a whole generation of kids who have no idea what to do in the workplace and this and that. Oh my God.
We sing to our children very often. You can't always get what you want.
That's
My
right.
kids know that song inside out.
Still didn't play it live. Awesome. Partly though, because he says it's because modern parents are simply paralyzed by the fear they will no longer be liked or even loved by their children if they chastise them for any reason. They're afraid to damage the relationship by saying no. They fear the loss of their children's love. Oh no. Love me. The kids have a word for it, by the way. When you want somebody to love me, it's called a pick me. I learned all this lingo. Ask your kids that pick me. Like pick me. Ask him. Ask him what a pick me is. Like pick me. Not pig me.
Oh.
Like pick me.
Pick
Like pick me. Like love me. Ask your kids, okay? I learned a new term today. Tell me what that means, pick me. The result is that they leave their children dangerously unprepared for a world that will not indulge their wishes or desire for attention, a world that could be tough, demanding, and sometimes cruel. Without rules, social skills, self-restraints, and a capacity to defer gratification, children grow up without an apprenticeship in reality. His conclusion is powerful, and he quotes, "Clear rules make for secure children and calm, rational parents. Clear principles of discipline and punishment balance mercy and justice so that social development and psychological maturity can be optimally promoted. Clear rules and proper discipline help the child and the family and society establish, maintain, and expand order. That is all that protects us from chaos." Right? Oh my gosh.
Follow through.
Right? No. So we joke around like, how you better do what I told you. I'm going to throw a bunch of empty threats your way. You know? You know what that qualifies you to be? A university president.
Exactly.
I've become a little unhinged lately. I'm just letting you know.
Mhm.
That's what the opening chapter of Parshas Kedoshim is about. Clear rules that create and sustain a social order. That is where real love, not the sentimental, self-deceiving substitute, belongs. Without order, love merely adds to the chaos. Misplaced love can lead to parental neglect, producing spoiled children with a sense of entitlement who are destined for an unhappy, unsuccessful, unfulfilled adult life. And we see it in front of our eyes. Pearson's book, whose subtitle is An Antidote to Chaos, I'm thinking like we really have to have a separate cheer just on that book, is not just about children. It's about the mess the West has made since the Beatles sang in 1967. All you need is love. All you need is love, love. Love is all. You see, Claire, we get everything here. You get to laugh, you get to sing, you got everything here. We've been missing out on all this time. As a clinical psychologist, Peterson has seen the emotional cost of a society without a shared moral code. People, he writes, need ordering principles without which there is chaos. We require rules, standards, values alone and together. We require routine and tradition. By the way, that's very much a Jewish thing. Why do we daven the same thing every day? Why do we get up and go to shul every week? Routine, tradition, that's order. Too much order can be bad, but too little can be worse. Life is best lived, he says, on the dividing line between them, which is why, even though we have this rote behavior of davening, but guess what? Every once in a while, we throw in a yontif, and we throw in a Shabbos, we throw in a Rosh Chodesh, right? Think about it. It keeps our order, but also breaks our order.
Good if we could spread them out. a little bit, you know, to break
Shmita
the
side.
order.
Especially in the September era. Yeah. I'll tell you what, you know what? This year, no yontif in September for you, just because you asked.
October 2nd, I know.
October, different story. Boss, yeah, I know I just started my new job in September. I'm not going to be here all of October. Yeah, but I don't feel like I'm in a safe space right now. And I don't feel like I'll have to go to my rubber room and go to HR. Okay. It's there, he says, that we find the meaning that justifies life and its inevitable suffering. Perhaps if we live properly, he adds, we could withstand the knowledge of our own fragility and mortality without the sense of aggrieved victimhood that produces first resentment, then envy, and then the desire for vengeance and destruction. Wow. Wow. That's the psychologist is quoting. Now, the fact that Rabbi Sachs read it and did it and quoted it, like that's okay. That is as acute an explanation as I ever heard for the unique structure of Leviticus 19. Its combination of moral, political, economic, and environmental laws is a supreme statement of the universe, divinely created, order of which we are the custodians. But the chapter is not just about order. It's about humanizing the order through love, the love of the neighbor, the love of the stranger. And when the Torah says, don't hate, don't take revenge, don't bear a grudge, it's an uncanny anticipation of Peterson's remarks about resentment, envy, and the desire for vengeance and destruction. Hence, the life-changing idea that we have forgotten for far too long, love is not enough. Relationships need rules. So then he says, changing idea number 30. Clear rules and proper discipline help to establish, maintain, and expand order for more fulfilled children, families, and society. Love is not enough. Relationships need rules. And that's a chapter. So I'm going to tell you something. That's a chapter. There's so much that you can, I hope we didn't like peek earlier, but no, but every chapter is like this. Every chapter is, this is why like I wanted to share this with you, because he takes something that's a simple, like we have this disjunctive, everybody agrees that chapter 19 in Leviticus is very disjunctive. It's like a hodgepodge, blah, 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 all this stuff. Like, I don't know, it's nice. There's some good stuff. Oh yeah, don't put a stumbling block in front of a blind person, and don't curse a deaf person, and leave the things for the poor people, and and love your neighbor, honor your parents, eat your vegetables. Like all those things are there, right? But why? Why is it all together? We need order. And he takes a simple chapter and a simple thought, but he puts it in such a profound and impactful, that's always the word, is so impactful way. So take it upon yourself to not only read this volume, which we'll study, but look for summer reading. I'll start with this. I know we already sold 2 copies today, right? Maybe more. This is my favorite, and there's so many. And if you want to get to like some of the nitty gritty ideas, like the will we have Jewish grandchildren one is a very powerful one, or Jewish continuity, or the Jewish contract with the world, these types of topics that Rabbi Sack covers all over the place. And then there's also the Torah books, and he wrote tremendous volumes on the holidays, the ceremony and celebration. We saw the abridged versions that just came out, which are phenomenal. I use them on Pesach a lot. As we did before Pesach. So there's a tremendous amount there. And also, if you are, just like futzing around on the computer, go to rabbisacks.org. rabbisacks.org is a complete treasure trove of just all of his wisdom. And then you ask yourself, man, how did he do it?
Mhm.
How did this man, and also somehow win over then Prince Charles, now King Charles. And they were friends, they had a relationship. He spoke one after he died, and be this world figure of Jewry that we needed. And I lament that we don't have a Rabbi Sacks today. We need a Rabbi Sacks today to kind of guide us like through what we're going through. There's Gadol Hador in Torah, but there's a Gadol Hador also in sort of like Judaism.
And he didn't start that early.
He did not.
Yeah.
He did not. Yeah.
started.
It's Rabbi Akiva-ish.
Yeah.
So, and he wanted to do a different career, but and learn about his life. So it's, yeah, so we are off to the races. If I recommend, if you don't have the book, you should get the book. Available around. Yes, if you have the book, find the book. Okay.
Peter wasn't home.
Oh, you see, he has it on his bedside table. That's what, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
Big library.
Anyway, good to see everybody.
The 12
Check
News
the
Flight is on
podcast as,
Amazon.
like, every